Hi guys, welcome back to another video from yours truly. So we're back once again with the Intel Compaq, running its usual install of Windows 2000 Professional that I had set back on here in the previous video. And I have set this up in a few days. Since making that video, I reinstalled all my programs and such. You know, the usual stuff that I would usually put on my installs. I pretty much have this thing set up as it was from back then, like, when I had it set up like in last year or something. But anyways, we're going to be installing another OS on this thing because I currently have Windows 98 Second Edition and Windows 2000 Professional installed on this Intel Compaq. Now, I did mention in the previous video of me installing Windows 2000 on this Intel Compaq. I mentioned that I might be reinstalling Windows XP back on here in another video or something. Now, since I'm making this video, I was going to be thinking about putting XP on this thing, but because I had planned to like reset everything back up to how it was on my Intel Compaq after I did something kind of selfish to it, but I already know the root source of that problem as I kind of reviewed older footages. I have decided I might have to go ahead and forego reinstalling XP for now, and I'll do that at a later time, in another video or something. So today we're going to be installing another OS based on Windows 2000. It's not Windows 2000 Professional because we already done it in the previous video. So we're going to be installing Windows 2000 Server, which is a server release, a server edition of Windows 2000, obviously. It's a version of Windows 2000 Professional designed for servers, obviously. So like what? File servers or whatever. That's anything server related in the business world or something. But yeah. Well, I have been installing Windows 2000 Server on a regular commodity PC hardware, like my Intel Compaq. So, I mean, my Intel Compaq is not a server, but I've installed Windows 2000 Server on my Intel Compaq, and it has worked before. It has worked, I would say, flawlessly on it. It functions like a regular OS, like Windows 2000. Without any like server related functions and such. But yeah, anyways, without rambling, here's the disk that I'm going to be using. It's a recorded copy that I made about like a year ago or two, I would say. And I'm going to be putting this disk in the drive. And then I will go ahead and reboot the system so I can install it from there. And yeah. So we'll see how it is once we get over there into that process. So it's restarting. Got the Compaq logo, the usual Compaq logo that always comes up when I start up this Compaq. Pressing the key to boot from CD, hit enter. Setup is inspecting your computer's hardware configuration, and here we are. We're in the Windows 2000 Server setup. It doesn't look that lot different from Windows 2000 Professional setup process because Windows 2000 Professional and Server are pretty much the same operating system, tailored for different uses, obviously. So Windows 2000 Professional was tailored for the business, enterprise, and high-end user market, for power users, and Windows 2000 Server was tailored for, you guessed it, servers. Like file servers and etc. Anything server related in the business world, as I mentioned earlier in this video. But yeah, anyways, here we are in the setup, and it may look familiar because it pretty much looks identical to what Windows 2000's setup process is like, Windows 2000 Professionals. So if you have seen the previous video of me reinstalling Windows 2000 Professional on this Intel Compaq, Or if you have installed Windows 2000 Professional before, then you may have been familiar with this setup process, as you'll see. There's one minor difference between this install, and that's shown right here. Windows 2000 Server Setup is displayed instead of Windows 2000 Professional Setup, on the header, as you can see at the top there. But anyways, welcome to Setup. This portion of the setup prepares Microsoft R registered trademark Windows 2000 TM trademark to run on your computer. So we'll set up Windows 2000 now by hitting enter, and then it's going to check all of the partitions, the disks, the 2 disks that I have on here. So here's the end user license agreement for Windows 2000 Server, and it also lists Windows 2000 Advanced Server on there too. Windows 2000 Data Center Server, which was designed to handle moving large files within a data center in a business environment, that came out much later. So, and this one is preloaded with Service Pack 4, slipstream into it. So we hit F8 to agree with the licensing terms and search for previous versions of Microsoft Windows, which you cannot find any version of Windows 2000 Server on here. And so it's going to go into our partitioning list, which will come up in a moment. There it is. And I have relabeled all the partitions I have on here, since I pretty much set all the partitions back up to how I wanted it to be. Like how I wanted it to be before I messed up the installs. So, because I remember I did try to reinstall Windows 2000 Server when all the OSs on this thing started to malfunction. And when I tried reinstalling Windows 2000 Server, everything on the secondary drive got wiped out. Initially, I thought that this disk was causing that problem, but I realized that I had that 160 gig partition that was outside of that 128 addressable data that this computer reads, probably in the BIOS or something, and I guess that kind of like did that overwritten thing. So that's the one problem. But anyways, that 160 gig storage was meant for backup purposes. I could move that over to another drive, but I didn't. But anyways, without rambling too much, here we go, all the partitions, and we'll install Windows 2000 Server on this partition on the secondary drive. Now you notice that I do have partitions for XP and XP Home and whatever. We'll do all those later in separate videos, but today we're going to be installing on this one, and we will format this partition using the NTFS file system. We'll format the drive by hitting F, and I'll go ahead and start my stopwatch as soon as I hit F. There we go. So I have the stopwatch running, and I'll actually stop the video here, and we'll catch you back up on the other side, since we'll do it that way because I don't want to bore you guys with just waiting like 8 to 9 minutes of just seeing that bar move slowly across to the end there. So while we're at it, I'll catch you up on the other side. I'm back, everyone, at 98 now. It was 97 a few milliseconds ago, but now it's 99, and the moment when it reaches 100, so it reaches 100, once it switches over to the next screen, I will stop my stopwatch. Let's see how long it actually took. So there we go. It took us about 7 minutes and 20 seconds from when I stopped the stopwatch. So I will reset my stopwatch, and yeah. So now it's gonna examining all the 2 drives that I have on the system and all of its partitions and whatnot. And then once it does that, it'll go ahead and begin copying our files, like so. So while it's doing this, yeah, I don't know if I can go off topic to off ramblings or just whatever that I have on mind, but even relating to the Intel Compaq and whatnot. But yeah, regarding Windows 2000 Server, on this Intel Compaq. I installed this. I think I installed this back when I was still using it. Well, because I bought my Intel Compaq as kind of like an initially as like an experimental computer to tinker around with it when I had my AMD Compaq as my main Compaq system. But ever since I continuously used this Intel Compaq, the Intel Compaq has become my main retro compact system. You know, in terms of usage, because I'm looking over there to my two Compaqs right now. The AMD Compaq is sitting unused as of yet, but I have powered it on like a few times and it has still worked. The AMD Compaq is still having its that that ATI Radeon 9100 card that I had put in there. If you saw one of my previous videos here on the channel, I might as well swap that out with like an 8500 LE, or even another 9000 series card like a 9200, or maybe even like a 9500 or a 9700 or 9800 ATI Radeon card. But that'll be for another day, you know, when I have the money and when I have the chance. Anyways, we're almost done with its copying files. And then once it does that, it'll go ahead and initialize our Windows 2000 configuration. Saving configuration and setting, and it's updating startup environment, as you can see down there. Alright, this portion of the setup has completed successfully and will reboot by hitting enter. We could wait for it to restart, but we'll hit enter just to save time. So, we rebooted to the Compaq logo, pressing the key to boot from CD, and there's a bootloader, which Windows 2000 Server is added to the list. And let's take a look at that Windows 2000 Server boot screen. There it is. Windows 2000 Server family, built on NT technology. Yeah. So this is what Windows 2000 Server, an advanced server, and even a data center server boot screen looks like. It is different than what Windows 2000 Professional's boot screen looks like. The obvious noticeable difference is that scrolling gradient bar being a different style. And also the logo is different too. Also, this setup bitmap's also different too. So that is, you can pretty much tell, we can see differences. Not just within the setup environment, you know, this text-based environment. Well, we can also see some differences here within this setup process. And also the boot screen there, you know, a moment ago, but we can see some differences between Windows 2000 Professional and Server just by, you know, the setup processes and whatnot. If you can spot some differences there. But as you can see, the bitmap for that thing hasn't changed, and neither does that one too. But we can see, oh, these buttons here are centered instead of it being like right there. So that's another difference. We let time out there, so it'll go ahead installing our devices. Please wait while setup detects and install devices such as your keyboard and mouse. This will take several minutes. During this time, your screen may flicker for a few seconds. So yeah, you know, I am not sure why Windows 2000 Server centers these buttons like right here when they should be like you know, at this spot right there. That's just me, but you know, that's just why I kind of noticed. That's probably another difference between Windows 2000 Professional and Windows 2000 Server setup process, obviously. Yeah. Anyways, I won't be sitting through here once that bar reaches to the end, since I won't be boring you guys. Anyways, yeah, I'll probably catch you guys up on the other side once that finishes. Alright, now we're here at the regional settings. So we got system locale and user locales and keyboard layout. So the system locale set to English United States and the user locale set to English United States for all users on this computer. Each user will use the US keyboard layout. And I'll go ahead and go to customize here and go to date and change this from 2029 to 2079, because otherwise, if the 2020s are over, then it will intercept it, the 2-year digits, not beyond 2029 and up. So I had to change that to 2079 so I can accept 2030 up to 2079. So now I'll keep this intact. Enter my usual name and organization. And product key. So I will pause here. Alright, I had a little bit of trouble typing in the product key. But now that we're in, we're getting to this. Licensing modes. Windows 2000 Server supports 2 licensing modes. So this is the one difference, between a Windows 2000 Professional and Server. It's this Windows 2000 Server exclusive thingery here on Setup, which is licensing modes. Select the licensing mode you want to use. Per server, number of concurrent connections. Each connection must have its own client access license. Or per seat. Each computer must have its own client access license. To avoid violation of the license agreement, use licensing to record the number of client access licenses purchased. Located under Administrative Tools, we'll go ahead and use per seat. So each computer must have its own client access license, not connections. And we go into our usual computer name and admin password. Once again, we don't need to set an admin password, not least since we're at home and not connected to the network, but yeah. So we leave all those, and we can set our components here. This is something that we don't get on Windows 2000 Professional, but Windows 2000 Server does. So what can we see under the components list? Well, we got all the accessories and utilities, and the certificate service, CA, whatnot, the indexing service, IIS services. So at least what we have here for for IIS services, networking services. Oh, we got a couple of services, lots of stuff, as far as like networking and servers thingeries go. Remote installation services, terminal services, and terminal services licensing. Ooh, enable terminal services. Windows Media Services. What's that? Windows Media Services supports streaming media and administrative interface for Windows Media Services. Enables you to stream multimedia content to network users. And then this is licensing thing for terminal services, which is configures this computer as a terminal services license server that provides client license. We will not use that. Remote storage. So that's set of services and administrative tools that you can use to store data from infrequently used files on magnetic tape. So like tape-based drives, Remote installation services provides the ability to remotely install Windows 2000 Professional on remote boot enabled client computers. We will not have that. And as far as all these go, I'll just have those why not. Let's see, message queuing services, management and monitoring tools. I will just have those why not. And IIS stuff, front page 2000 server extensions and whatnot, SMTP and NMTP, administrative services manager, documentation, whatever. We'll just have all of them. Why not? Yeah, I'll just have to select all of them manually from here. Yeah, I'm scrolling my scroll wheel. It's not used here, but yeah. Alright, so I think I have pretty much everything that I have set as far as Windows 2000 server components go. So we'll click next. And I'll leave all these exactly the same as this. It is reading the correct time. I did have to like make some minor adjustments to the BIOS state on this Intel Compaq, so it's more in line and sync with the correct time that I have on my computer and my phone. And as for time zone, I'll leave that intact because I am living somewhere around that area. So click next. Terminal services setup. You can run terminal services in one of two modes: remote admin mode or application server mode. Remote admin allows a limited number of admins to remotely manage the server. This setting minimizes impact on server performance. An application server allows users to remotely run one or more applications. It optimizes program running times. To use this option, you must set up a terminal services licensing server in this domain or workgroup within 19 days. Use add/remove programs in the control panel to install programs for use in application server mode. Well, we will go ahead and kind of think about this for a bit as I read this thing. So remotely manage the server, remotely one or more applications. Let's see. Because I'm not even sure if we can change this at a later date. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and with the default remote admin mode, because I have not selected a terminal services licensing option, but you know, what can you do? Alright, now it's going to install the networking components. Alright, typical settings, we can use custom settings. Again, it has detected our PCI Ethernet card, which is a SMC EZ card 10100, SMC 1211TX. That's the original Ethernet card that came with the system. So we could make this a domain, or we can use this as a work group. We'll just set it up with work groups. And because I believe most of the time Windows 2000 server OSs were set up on domains. They were rarely set up as work groups, you know, if they have ever been used back then. But anyways, now it's going to be copying files and such. And yeah, so pretty much from here on out, it's pretty much just going to be setting up all the files, you know, for use on this Intel Compaq, obviously. So it'll be all there and set up and ready to go once we reboot, once it completes the install. So it's pretty much straightforward here, and it's similar to the Windows 2000 professional installation process. So nothing has changed that much apart from some slight differences. Anyways, yeah, and I will show this again. Hitting Shift F10 will bring up the command prompt like this one. Again, I have mentioned this earlier, that this exists since Windows 2000 Professional. Well, since Windows 2000 obviously, and it still exists even in Windows today. You know, as of Windows 10 and Windows 11, they still have this in their setup process. Experienced users should already know what to do with this command prompt window, because I know even novice users, even beginners, or even just like everyday regular users will not even fiddle around with this, and they won't even bother touching Shift F10 during the setup process. So yeah, this is only for experienced users and users that already know what they're doing, so like me. But yeah, so they can use this command prompt to install things like drivers and such. However, you know, I found out that installing drivers, you know, from within that command prompt usually only works on like Windows OS's since XP and such. Since I tried doing the same thing with Windows 2000, you know, like on Windows 2000 Professional or even on Windows 2000 Server, like installing the graphics drivers and such, that didn't work. But stuff like that did work on Windows XP and I believe onwards, I guess. But yeah, so it's configuring COM+, and then once it does that, then it will go ahead and into the usual bits. So setting up, installing start menu items, registering components, saving the settings, and then removing any temporary files used. So yeah, so I guess with all that out of the way, oh, it's installing IIS Internet Information Services and stuff, all the extra features and components that I added on there. Once it's done with that, then we'll go ahead into the next section, which you guys have already seen, in my previous video, obviously, of that last part. So I will, I will be skipping the majority of that because, plus I haven't really got anything to talk about in terms of like what off-topic ramblings and whatnot. But like, yeah. Now it's configuring SMTP services, so it's configuring even more services, obviously, for this install. But yeah. NNTP service. So yes, it's really setting up all the stuff that I had for the networking stuff. Because Windows 2000 Server has plenty more networking functions tailored for like server-related functions and whatnot. More so than with Windows 2000 Professional. So, ooh, this computer has at least one dynamically assigned IP address. For reliable Windows Internet Name Service (WINS) operation, you should only use static IP addresses. You will now have the option to change this dynamically IP address. I'm not sure I will show this on camera, but we'll see. Show taskbar and icon when connected. I'll just press OK on that. You have chosen to continue using dynamically assigned IP addresses on this computer. For reliable Windows Internet Name Service (WINS) operation, you should only use static IP addresses. Yeah, we'll just hit OK on that. We'll just cancel on that. Yeah, we'll just cancel all of those things, and then it will continue on with the installation. So right there. So now it's installing start menu items, then it will register the components, and then it will save the settings, and then it will remove any temporary files used. So it's just the usual nitty gritty here and there from this point forward. So yeah, I won't be showing all of this being done in one single shot since you guys might be bored. But anyways, yeah. So I'll catch you up on the other side once it finishes. Alright, it looks like it's on the final stretch now. Alright, on to remove any temporary files used, and there we go! Completing the Windows 2000 setup wizard. You have successfully completed Windows 2000 setup. If there's a CD drive in your drive, remove it. Then to restart your computer, click finish. So I will go ahead and remove the drive, the CD from the drive, that is. And then we'll reboot the system. So there's the setup bitmap for Windows 2000 server as it appears. It's different than what Windows 2000 Professional's setup bitmap looked like. And it'll take a little bit while to exit out from the setup process. There it goes. It'll reboot. And then we'll be heading into the Windows 2000 server desktop for the first time. So once again, we got our bootloader settings. So we got Microsoft Windows, which that is Windows 98 2nd edition, and Windows 2000 Professional and Windows 2000 Server. We'll select the topmost option. And so there we go. Now, as far as the labeling with Microsoft Windows goes on the boot screen, that's how Windows 2000 labels older versions of Windows, mostly Windows 9X systems like Windows 95, 98, ME. That's how Windows 2000 labels it as that. Windows XP does the same thing too, obviously. Now with Windows Vista and up, obviously, with their bootloaders, they label older versions of Windows as earlier versions of Windows. Even XP and 2000 are labeled under that. But anyways, here we are. We're moving into the desktop for the first time. And I believe it's going to come up with a network identification. Nope, it didn't come up with that this time. That's something that only appears on Windows 2000 Professional when you first boot into the desktop for the first time. Whoa! At least one service or driver failed during system startup. Use Event Viewer to examine the event log for details. Okay. But as you can see, instead of it booting up to the network identification wizard, we just went straight into the login box here. And notice that it's already had press Control Delete enabled. So press Control Delete to begin. Control Delete helps keep your password secure. Click Help for more information. We can click on that to view that. We'll click Control Delete. And here's the default login box with the options hidden. We can press that to enable this option and this option. Like I said, this option is not really useful, even especially in modern times, since we now have broadband instead of dial-up, and plus we don't have landline connections in our house, so yeah. And shutdown option, that's disabled, unlike with Windows 2000 Professional where that's enabled. Again, we can hide all those options, or we can just unhide them like I do. And we'll go ahead and just boot into the system for the first time. So here we go. And once again, the volume is still set at a much higher volume than I would usually like to. You have successfully completed Windows 2000 Server setup. So this is something that's exclusive to Windows 2000 Server as well. You can now configure this server. Select the first option if you have one server in your network. Select the second option if you have more than one server in your network. If you prefer to configure your server later, select the third option. I will select the topmost option. This is the only server in my network. If you proceed, Windows will automatically configure this server as a domain controller and set up Active Directory, DHCP, and DNS on your network. We'll just select that. Configure your server. From the menu at the left, choose the services that you want to run on the server. You can set up any of the services depending on how you want to customize your network. To set up and find out more about a service, click the server's name. Find out what's new in Windows 2000 Server. Check the latest walkthroughs. To reopen this window at any time, click Start, point to Programs, point to Administrative Tools, and then click Configure your server. And we can turn this server pages. We will not show the screen at startup, and it doesn't come up with that getting started with Windows 2000 applet, as you'll notice. So that's another difference, and it doesn't even show that. Click here, click on the start button to begin. All right, and so we have a different bitmap for the start menu there. Instead of it saying Windows 2000 Professional, it says Windows 2000 Server. Notice it's on a different font too. Alright, and yep, this is pretty much a basic install of Windows 2000 Server. Not necessarily a basic install because I added a few components. But yeah. And we pretty much have everything that we have in here as far as Windows 2000 goes. Windows 2000 Server. All the standard applets, games, and accessibility tools and whatnot are there too. Yep. We got event viewer here, so we'll take a look at the event viewer to see what failed. I believe it was the DHCP server or whatnot, but I'll check those later. Off camera, but I'll set the monitor to 800 by 600. And we got the connect to internet option here, as usual. Connect to the network. Automatic discovery, no. And there we go. That icon should disappear like so. This is i5. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say for Windows 2000 Server. Me reinstalling it back on this Intel Compaq. And as you can see, it pretty much works as usual, like any other OS, Yeah, so I guess that about be it for this video. So thank you guys for watching this, and I will hope to see you all in the next one. See ya.